Today, we're not just talking about sales funnels or marketing campaigns. Nope, we're going deeper. We are exploring how to actually engineer human behavior, how to create lasting daily rituals with the products we build. Let's dive right in.
We've all been taught that if you want someone to make a big purchase, you need a big pitch, a huge, high-pressure sales effort to convince a skeptical buyer. But what if that's just plain wrong? What if that's a massive strategic failure? See, that whole assumption is fundamentally broken because it completely ignores the most powerful force in our decision-making, our own brain's internal programming.
So what if the entire sales battle isn't won with that big pitch, but with a single tiny yes? A super low-friction entry point that psychologically compels the buyer toward that final big purchase. This is the paradox we're going to unpack. True persuasion, it turns out, isn't some external push. It's an internal pull that taps into our deep-seated need to be consistent with ourselves.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll dig into the persuasion paradox. Then, we'll dissect the core engine behind all of this, the four-part habit loop. After that, we'll look at the psychology that makes it tick, the mind's autopilot. Then we'll turn all that theory into a practical framework for mastery. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together in engineering a daily ritual.
Okay, so let's jump in with the persuasion paradox. Why have the old rules of selling just stopped working? Well, the answer lies in the world we live in now, which is defined by a whole new kind of scarcity. And it's not a scarcity of products. It's something way more valuable.
The real scarcity today, it's attention. Think about it. The fundamental challenge for any business isn't just getting that one sale, it's earning and then keeping a user's focus in a world that is just screaming with infinite distraction. The goalposts have moved. It's not about one-time persuasion anymore. It's about long-term, sustained engagement. Getting a customer is one thing, but making your product an essential part of their life, that's the real win.
And the key to winning this battle for attention isn't a bigger, louder pitch. It's a quieter, much more powerful psychological lever, what's known as the commitment bias. See, our brains are literally hardwired to stay consistent with decisions we've already made. Once we say a small yes to something, our mind desperately wants to keep saying yes. That final big purchase then just becomes the totally logical, inevitable conclusion of a journey we've already started.
Okay, so if a small yes is the way in, how do we build on that? Well, the answer is a systematic process for engineering unconscious behavior. You can think of it as a psychological machine, one that's designed to create retention by turning a conscious action into an automatic ritual.
And this machine is the four-part habit loop. It starts with a cue, which is the trigger. That cue kicks off a routine, which is the action. That routine then delivers a reward, the payoff, and that reward encourages an investment. Now this final step, investment, that's the secret sauce that locks in the behavior for the long haul. So let's break this down piece by piece. Everything begins with the cue. This is the starting pistol for the entire habit. It could be an external trigger, like a notification on your phone at 9 a.m. every day, or it could be an internal one, like that feeling of boredom that makes you open up a social media app. The cue has to be specific, it has to be frequent, and it has to be tied directly to the problem your product solves. A weak cue means the whole loop just never gets started.
So once that cue fires, the user performs the routine. This is the core action we want them to take, using the product itself. And here, there's one rule that matters more than anything else. You have to ruthlessly minimize friction. The path from that trigger to the action needs to be as effortless as humanly possible. We're talking one-click simple. Any little bit of difficulty here will break the chain and stop the habit from ever forming.
After the routine, of course, comes the reward. This is the satisfying payoff that solves the user's initial problem. But here's the secret to making this really, really compelling. Variability. A reward that's just slightly unpredictable, like the never-ending scroll of a social media feed, is neurologically way more enticing than one you can see coming. It keeps the brain guessing, and it keeps it coming back for more.
And that brings us to the final and absolutely crucial step, investment. This is where the user puts something of value back into the system. It could be the time they spend organizing files, or the personal data they enter into a profile, or even the social capital they use by inviting a friend. This investment step dramatically increases the cost of switching to a competitor, and that creates a powerful structural lock-in.
So when you put all four of these stages together, they achieve one single incredibly powerful goal. They move your product's use from the world of conscious, effortful choice into the domain of unconscious, automatic ritual. You're no longer asking for a decision, you're just triggering a default behavior.
All right, now that we've seen what the loop is, let's get into the why.
What are the deep psychological principles that make this thing so darn effective? Why does our brain so readily latch onto these automated behaviors? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental split in how our minds work.
So just think of your brain as having two different operating systems. You've got System 2, that's the pilot. It's conscious, it's deliberate, and it handles all the complex, high-effort decisions. But here's the thing, it gets tired really easily. Then you have System 1, the autopilot. It's unconscious, it's automatic, and it's incredibly fast. It's always looking for shortcuts and efficiencies, and it handles all of our ingrained habits. The habit loop works because it's designed to completely bypass that tired pilot and speak directly to the efficient autopilot.
Now, we touched on this a little bit back in the reward phase, but it is so important it's worth pulling out on its own, because it is the core engine of compulsion. The truly addictive secret behind the world's most engaging products isn't just that they give you a reward, it's the kind of reward they give you. And there it is, two simple words, variable reward. When the payoff is unpredictable, our brains get a huge surge of dopamine. That's the chemical of anticipation. This reaction compels us to repeat the cycle over and over again, not just for the reward itself, but for the sheer thrill of the hunt.
And look, if variable reward is the hook, then investment is the anchor. By getting users to invest their time, their data, their social connections, you're not just getting them to use the product, you're getting them to build a valuable asset inside it. This raises the cost of switching to a competitor exponentially. And crucially, it triggers a powerful psychological bias called loss aversion. The fear of losing what they've built becomes way stronger than the potential allure of a competitor, making your product the clear default choice.
Okay, so we get the theory, we get the psychology. Now let's make this practical. How do you actually sit down and architect a habit? Let's translate all these principles into an actionable blueprint you can actually use. Really, it all boils down to a pretty clear three-step framework. First, you have to clearly define the primary cue that's going to trigger the behavior. Second, you have to become absolutely obsessed with minimizing the friction in the routine. And third, you must design your product to enforce an investment lock-in. So, your first mission is to find that trigger. What is the existing pain point, or emotion, or daily routine that your product is actually designed to solve? Is it that feeling of being disorganized in the morning? Is it the 3 p.m. energy slump? Your product's prompt, whether that's a notification or an email, has to be directly and reliably linked to that specific real-world cue.
Next, your mission is to destroy friction. You have to ruthlessly audit and simplify the entire user journey. Identify what's called the magic number. That's the core action that correlates with long-term retention. For Facebook, it was getting a user to connect with 7 friends in 10 days. Find your magic number, and then do everything in your power to minimize the steps to get there. The goal is to make the core value feel instantaneous. And finally, your mission is to build the lock-in. The end of a successful session for a user shouldn't just be a dead end. It has to be designed to prompt and require an investment from them. Ask them to save their work, to customize a setting, to follow a topic, or to invite a colleague. This is the exact moment a simple user is transformed into an integrated, retained customer.
All right, let's zoom out and look at the big picture here. When you successfully implement this framework, what have you actually built? Well, you've done a lot more than just create a sticky product. You've engineered a competitive advantage, a moat that is incredibly difficult for anyone else to cross.
Because here's the essential insight of this whole thing. Sustained, long-term retention is not a function of constantly shipping new features. It's a function of engineering psychology. It's about understanding the cold, hard logic of the habit loop and applying it to our profound human need for efficiency and consistency. Real, durable success comes from understanding behavior, not just from building technology.
And that leaves us with this final thought. The best marketing doesn't push people through a funnel, it pulls them toward value. It transforms a product from something they choose to use into something they use by default. It creates an automatic daily ritual, and a ritual never needs to be sold.